All right, everybody. We're delighted to have Senator Rand Paul with us today. Senator Paul has been serving as Kentucky's junior U.S. Senator since 2011. He's an ophthalmologist by trade, and as such, he's a graduate of the Duke Medical School. Serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, as well as various subcommittees. He is consistently one of the Senate's most conservative members, which we are gratefully appreciative of. He is married, proud father of 3 children, and we always appreciate, Senator Paul, your willingness to listen to electric cooperative issues. Welcome.
All right, is everybody glad to be in Washington?
Yes.
Have you gotten to do anything fun?
Oh, yes.
All right, how many people have been here before? A bunch. So you're all, it's all old hat, you know where to go and all the fun stuff to do. All right, I was told that you guys, I'm supposed to administer a pop quiz to you. And you don't get to eat if you don't get the quiz right. So, all right, are we a democracy or a republic? All right, somebody want to volunteer? Republic sounds like the right answer. Anybody want to tell me the difference? Raise a hand if you want to tell me. Yes. Right, sort of an so in some ways it's democratic, but it's an indirect democracy. And it's also the difference between a republic and a democracy is that a republic is bound by certain rules. So the majority doesn't always get their way. So for example, we have a constitution that says, you know, the First Amendment says you have a freedom of speech, of press, practicing your religion, and the government can't make any rules telling you which church to go to, or that your church is illegal, or that your newspaper is illegal. Even a majority can't decide that. So in some ways we aren't majority rule. And so it's important because sometimes you'll hear people saying, we need to make the world safe for democracy. Except for we're not really a democracy, we're a republic, and there is a distinction. So the First Amendment talks about speech and assembly, that you can join a group, either a church or some other kind of group, that you agree with people and get together. Second Amendment says you have a right to own a gun. The Fourth Amendment says you have the right to have the government not invade your house or your private or your cell phone and look at stuff unless they ask a judge for permission. The judge only lets them look at your personal things on your phone if you've been specifically accused of a crime and if there's probable cause that you've either committed or will commit the crime. These are protections against you, but they're also protections against the majority. Because there have been times in our history when the majority did the wrong thing. One of the things they did about 100 years ago, right around 1900, a little before, a little after, was the majority, particularly in the South, said, well, you know, we're not going to give black people the same rights, and we're going to treat black people as separate but equal, but it's just not going to be the same. And that wasn't right. We've all kind of decided that was wrong. But it was a majority, it was a democracy that was making those decisions. But it's just an example of how the majority can sometimes be wrong. And that there are certain rights that some of us believe that are God-given rights that are yours, and they're yours no matter what the majority of people think. No matter what the majority of people think about whether you can own a gun or what church you can go to or whether you can have a newspaper, they don't get to decide. These are your rights, they're God-given rights, and they're protected in a republic. How many people's parents give them a credit card and just say, put on it whatever you want, anytime you want? You can have $4,000 or $5,000 on the credit card. Anybody? You know what? Your government has that. That's what we do. Unfortunately, the taxpayers pay about $3 trillion in taxes, but every year your government spends about $4 trillion. Now you can see in your own personal circumstances, if your parents gave you a credit card and you just put $2,000 on it and you didn't pay it back, boy, the interest and everything, it's several $100s a month that you'd be paying, and it's not responsible. But what's not responsible for an individual really is not responsible for your government either. And so I've been a big stickler saying we should only spend what comes in. And people say, well, how would you ever balance it? You'd have to cut, and all these people who want all this money would be cut. Well, you can actually do it by cutting 1 penny out of every dollar. So let's say your group has a disease and your grandmother has this disease and you want the government to do research into this disease. Well, if the government spent $100 million last year trying to combat this disease, if they were to spend $99 million and everything across the whole budget were to spend 1% less, you can actually balance your budget within about 4 or 5 years. Why does that make a difference? Well, because the deficit's so enormous now that the interest is squeezing out everything else. So we're $22 trillion in debt, but the interest payment is several $100 billion. And that's sort of pushing out all the other things that people want from government. In some ways, it's intergenerational too. My generation and the generation older than me are passing it along to you. The overall debt that you have to be responsible for now is like $70,000 a person. And ultimately, someone has to pay for this. You're either going to pay for it with higher taxes, which slow down the economy, make it harder to get jobs, or they pay for it by printing money and then prices will rise. But these are things that you're inheriting, and that in the next year or so, if you don't already vote, you'll get to make a decision. Do you want people that want to have who want the large federal government to have more control over your lives and your business and everything else? Or you want to have less? Do you want higher taxes or lower taxes? Do you want more government spending or less government spending? Do you want more government dictates or less government dictates? And these are the decisions you'll make. But I would say that what made this country great was being largely left alone. If your parents are in a business of any kind, we largely leave them alone. And if you're an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, a welder, a construction worker, you're largely able to keep most of what you earn. That means we have fairly small taxes and fairly small government. But those are the decisions you make. Which way are you going to go with your government, and which creates better employment? Right now we had a big tax cut about a year ago, and guess what? When we leave more money in the hands of those who earned it, the economy's booming. The biggest problem in Kentucky right now is finding enough workers. 3% unemployment, and every boss will tell you, gosh, I'm having trouble even finding enough people to work. So it's a good time to be alive. And I think when people you hear these people whining, saying, oh, woe is me, it's so terrible, I can't find a job. It's not true. There's never been a better time to be alive. I think we're doing incredibly well. Other than maybe spending too much money, the economy is actually doing pretty well. So I hope you'll look at it in a positive way as you get into college or beyond, and I think you'll find that there are great opportunities awaiting you. And I wish you all the best in the world. Thank you.